On January 7th, 1942, Sava Kasanovich, George Clark, who is in charge of the museum and laboratory for RCA, Kenneth Sweezy of Brooklyn, went to Tesla's room. It's crazy. They have his home address. I'm not going to read it because it's pointless and old and long. But they have this guy's home address and where they work and all of this stuff. Isn't that kind of suspicious? Went to Tesla's room in New Yorker and with the assistance of a locksmith broke into a safe which Tesla and his rooms had in his rooms and which kept some of his valuable papers, including important electrical formulae, designs, etc. These papers were taken from the safe. So these three people they just mentioned, they have their home and addresses and their workplaces. It sounds like they were working for the government if they have all of that, most likely for the FBI themselves, that they broke in and stole all of this stuff. I mean, that's a lot of information to have on some people that aren't working for you. But we'll continue on because it gets a little bit muddied. And I'll point that out at the end, that it seems like there's a lot of different factions, some of them even in our own government. I counted like 5 factions just in this document, all looking for stuff with Tesla after he mysteriously died, allegedly alone. So Fitzgerald knows of but 2 relatives of Tesla, both nephews. One is Sava Kasanovich, and the other is a man named by Trebevich, who is presently in a hospital in Chicago, Illinois. The name of the hospital was unknown to Fitzgerald. Kasanovich's address is the Navarro Hotel, New York City. When asked if Fitzgerald was primarily interested in getting possession of Tesla's paper, he stated he was not. What he wanted was for them to be made available to the government of the United States for the use in present war, because he stated that the so-called death ray would be a deadly weapon in the hands of any power, and the use of wireless transmission of electrical power would make possible the most efficient airplanes conceivable. Fitzgerald's concern was aroused, he stated, over the presence of 2 nephews in whom he had no confidence as their loyalty and patriotism to the Allied nations. And also because of the pension Tesla received from Czechoslovakia, he feels that the government may feel that it is entitled to any revolutionary ideas Tesla may have had and indicted on paper. So that's pretty interesting. And so it says that Fitzgerald here, that his primary motivation is getting the stuff available to the government, which we're going to find out here later on. I might as well just give a little spoiler. It seems like the government themselves were the ones stealing this stuff. So why does it seem like the government doesn't know about it? Unless there's multiple factions in the government. Like, the government stole it, it seems like, and then here we're going to find out Fitzgerald works for the government later on. So how is it that Fitzgerald here, working for the government, is trying to tell the FBI, hey, we need to tell the government what this stuff is, even though the government already stole it? So I hope that that's, you can keep up with that, but I'll explain it as we go on. I just had to put out the foreshadowing or whatever. So Fitzgerald stated that until 3 months ago he was working with the government in a research capacity at MIT, and that presently he is working as a designing engineer with the Ordnance Department of U.S. Army, both Washington, D.C. and New York City. Fitzgerald promised to relay this office any information he obtained, but insisted that something must be done immediately because he feels it may mean a great deal in the war effort of the United States. And be interesting to see if this was 1942 or 1943. Doesn't show anything. We don't have page 1 of this. This is called the Foxworth Memo. Once again, this is just a whole folder of stuff that the FBI put together, but the only reason I know that is because it's at the top of the page here. But it says Foxworth Memo, Nikola Tesla, page 3 and 2, and we're on page 3, but there's no page 1. We already read page 2. So I don't know what year this is happening at, but they're kind of talking in past tense about January 7th, 1942. So I'm assuming this is 1943 or later. Because that also becomes relevant. Because there's right here, what was his last thing that he said? He said that he's worried about it, the war effort, which would make a lot more sense in 1942 than it would in 1943. I guess they could still be worried about the war effort in 1943, but here's something else that's a spoiler. I just have to get out there that we'll come back to many more times again, I'm sure, if we talk about World War II and this sort of stuff, is that by 1942, the Germans knew they were losing. Like, their own documents show they knew that they were losing. They knew they were going to lose the war already, 1942, and that's because of the Soviets. The Soviets had defeated them. So for him to be concerned about the war effort is interesting. It means that Fitzgerald here isn't privy to how the war's going, which makes sense when we find out his rank and stuff like that later on. But yeah, 1942, 1943, they already know the war's over and it's summed up. And there's actually mention in this document about that a little bit later on that I will be sure to find and mention. But here, this is page 4 of Foxworth Memo. Fitzgerald indicated that it was his intention to contact Kasanovich on January 9th, 1942, and suggest to him that he make available to representatives of the U.S. government for inspection all of the personnel and private papers and apparatus of Tesla. So this is saying Kasanovich has at least some of it, the Tesla's items. Fitzgerald is asking Kasanovich to give what he knows and has to the government. Fitzgerald expressed particular concern over the new model now in the safety deposit box at Governor Cleveland Hotel and insisted that the steps be taken by the government, not only it, but the other technical papers and designs of Tesla be safeguarded so they cannot be removed from the country or available to the use of other nations. Fitzgerald was advised that this matter would receive appropriate attention from New York Field Division. Respectfully submitted, Fred B. Cornell, special agent from the FBI. And then there's a scribble. I don't know what that's for. So here we have the actual complaint form of New York office, FBI of Nikola Tesla, room 3327, Hotel New Yorker, DOA, death on arrival, and that it says here that the telephone number of the complaint was at 12:20 a.m., so I guess that's the middle of the night. Hotel New Yorker turned out to be Nikola Tesla scientist. It was revealed NYPD detectives are going through books and writings in the room, and FBI was invited to send over agents to join the search if action was desired. Seems Dr. Tesla was a Czechoslovakian. Nothing it stated has been found to indicate Doctor was engaged in espionage or other subversive activity. A check indicates revealed no case file on the subject. So this says the FBI has no case file on Nikola Tesla. I find that to be unlikely. And it says recommended action by the agent, no action, which is also unlikely and completely false, because we're gonna, like, we've already seen multiple people that agents that as soon as they find out that he's dead, they tell them to go and take all their stuff. So that's not no action. I don't know what that no action is supposed to say, like what that is. I don't know how they fill out these forms or whatever, so I don't know what that's actually saying. But I'm just pointing out that no action is not the truth. The action recommended by agent no action is not the truth. And this is United States Department of Justice, January 8th, 1943. And let's double check what day he died at. Says he died in 43. Okay. So Tesla died in 1943. Says this afternoon, Mr. Connor, and then it's scratched out and put Gordon, and through this whole document it says O'Connor, but I guess it's supposed to say Gordon, which is weird. It says, and this afternoon, Mr. O'Connor, scratched out, Gordon, of the New York Times, called to invite my attention to the death of notice of Nikola Tesla, celebrated inventor, which appeared in the New York Times either this morning or last night. The article gives in detail a plan which Tesla was working on at the time of his death. And it said that Tesla has nephews, he does have nephews, who his heir is allegedly to be friendly to the Axis powers. And that Mr. O'Connor scratched out Gordon. Opinion, if papers existed, they ought to have the standpoint from national safety be impounded by the United States government to prevent being used by others. And says assistant director advised O'Connor, scratched out Gordon, that his matter would be properly handled. January 9th, 1943. So this is the second person saying, hey, we've got to get this to the right people. Basically, is what they're saying. We can't just let this go. Who knows why, right? But this is kind of like a typed out telemessage version of what we just read. So I'm going to skip through it. That in 1943, New York City, during his lifetime, conducted many experiments, wireless transmission, the death ray. That, again, Sava Kasanovich, intensely disliked by Tesla, taking steps to get the stuff. And Blois Fitzgerald, electrical engineer, quite close to Tesla. And then those three dudes broke in using a locksmith. And this is literally the same document repeated. That's why I'm like skipping through it here. And here we have a new one from another document from FBI, 1943, January 11th. So you can see this is like the date is going by, right? This is 2 days since the last one. We're seeing like a day by day transgression of at least some of the documents. Mr. Little of the Bureau called me today and inquired if we had done anything yet in connection with obtaining the papers and effects of Nikola Tesla, a recently deceased inventor. I advised Mr. Little that we had not taken action. Mr. Little suggested that it might be well to take up matter with the district attorney, inasmuch he felt Kasanovich could be charged with burglary and could be taken into custody. Mr. Little advised that it was important that we secure the material supposedly taken by Kasanovich, because if it is as secret as it is reported to be, it is vital that none of it gets into the newspaper where the enemy will have easy access. Not only would the enemy have easy access, hypothetically, but so would the public of the earth, right? Like all of humans. And we'll kind of see what I mean by that in a little bit. But I have a feeling they're not as interested in the Germans as they claim they are. They already know the Germans got their butt kicked, and there's really not much that they can do about it. And that, like, from 1942 to 1945, they were basically just evacuating because the Nazis knew they were going to lose. So they were getting all of the high command and high technology out. And that's a fact. That's not even a conspiracy theory. That's just a fact. And more of these documents are coming out. And hopefully we'll talk about it some more another time. But and this is all public information. It's not anything private. So in answer to his inquiry, which this is about Mr. Little, I advised Mr. Little it was my opinion that the surrogate would administer the estate of Nikola Tesla. Little suggested the following same procedure, and this time matter was taken in Ludwig case, which got to look up what the Ludwig case is. Let me highlight that. So, so I advised Mr. Little that I would speak to the district attorney informally on the matter, and perhaps it could handle in this way. So they're talking about figuring out a way to be able to get his stuff within the law. And at first, they don't even bother to do that, which they'll say here in a little bit. But unknown subjects, equipment, experiments, and research of Nikola Tesla deceased, espionage, M-class rating. January 12th, 1943. So this is the next day by the FBI. And there's something that's scratched out here. Reference is made to the teletype under above heading to the bureau from the office dated January 9 last. Inquiry develops that Tesla died January 8th rather than Thursday, January 7th, as stated in reference teletype. On the night of January 8th, Sava Kasanovich, George Clark, and Kenneth Sweezy visited Tesla's hotel with a representative of Shaw Walker in order to open the safe in the room of Tesla. So now they're saying that the date was wrong. Isn't that so weird? They're like, actually, it wasn't the 8th, it was the 7th, but we said it, and they went in on the 8th. They're saying that Savannah and Kasanovich went in on the 8th now, which is strange. They're changing it up. And we'll find some more stuff out about that here in a little bit. But so they say they go in with this one guy, a representative Shaw Walker. And it said there's apparently more people they go in with, too, later, it says. But it doesn't mention them here, which is also strange. Kasanovich later reported to Walter Gorsuch, Office of Alien Property Custodian, New York City, that he went into the room in order to search for a will of Tesla. Kasanovich and the others made search of the safe in the presence of 3 managers of the Hotel New Yorker, as well as representatives of the Yugoslavian consulate. So right here, that's what I meant by there was more people. Representative of the Yugoslavian consulate were there when they opened the safe. Very strange. Identities of latter not yet known. So the only people that they didn't know, the FBI did not know, of the people in that room on the 7th or the 8th, whichever day it was, because they're changing it now, was Yugoslavian consulate members. Very strange that they would have everybody's identity other than them. After the safe was opened, Sweezy took from the safe a book containing testimonials sent to Tesla on the occasion of his 75th birthday. The book was arranged for by Tesla by Sweezy. Kasanovich took from the room 3 pictures of Tesla, 2 being enlarged newspaper pictures. According to the managers of the hotel, Kasanovich himself, nothing else was removed from the room or safe. The safe was then closed under a new combination, which combination is now in the possession of Kasanovich. On Saturday afternoon, January 9th, Gorsuch and Fitzgerald of Alien Property Control went to the hotel and seized all the property of Tesla, consisting of about 2 truckloads, sealed all articles, and transferred them to the Manhattan Storage and Warehouse Company. So it says now Kasanovich had possession of it. And then Fitzgerald comes in and takes it, right? Gorsuch went to the hotel and seized all the property. Yeah, so Kasanovich had it for like 12 to 24 hours. Who knows what happened during that 12 to 24 hours? And then the Czechoslovakian consulate members of where they went or what happened with them in that 24 hours. Before Fitzgerald, this guy that's working with like basically every agency under the sun, it seems like, and was Tesla's protege. It's pretty interesting. So let's continue reading on here. That they took to the warehouse where they're now located. At that time, there was also in this warehouse approximately 30 barrels and bundles belonging to Tesla, which had been there since about 1934. These have also been sealed and are now under orders of Alien Property Custodian. In view of the fact Tesla is in the United States naturalized citizen alien property custodian feels that its jurisdiction over property is doubtful, but feels that no other agency will be able to get to this property for at least 2 days. So they don't even have legal jurisdiction to possess this stuff. They just go in and take it because it's the 40s and it takes forever for anybody to get anywhere, and nobody else is going to be able to get here for 2 days. And they've already had people from other governments opening the guy's safe immediately within a day or two of him dying, because they don't even know for sure what day he died or when the people went in there, because they're changing the dates at this point. So everything's just getting muddled from the beginning. Like, straight immediately, things just get cloudy and murky. After that time, it is possible that a public administration will be appointed for the property who may take the property into his custody. Tesla also had some property alleged by informant Fitzgerald, in this case, to be a working model of invention at a safe deposit box in Governor Clinton Hotel. The inquiry shows that it was placed by Tesla in 1932, and a security for $400 was owed the hotel. This bill is still owed and appears unwilling to release the property to anyone unless the debt is paid. And the office will be advised if anybody attempts to pay the bill and obtain the property. So they just let it sit there, which is also kind of interesting. That allegedly they just let it sit there. But didn't it say the hotel managers helped these people? So I don't know about that. How do they even know it's still in the box if they don't go and open it? It just seems really strange for them to just be like, oh yeah, we'll just let it sit there and not go check on it. But concerning Tesla, hotel managers reported he was very eccentric, if not mentally deranged, during the past 10 years. It is doubtful he had created anything of value during that time, although prior to that he probably was a very brilliant inventor. Therefore, any notes of value were probably those made to prior of that time. Kasanovich is a nephew of Tesla who described himself formerly, quote, Yugoslav Ministry of State, unquote, and now President of Eastern and Central Planning Board, representing Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Poland, and Greece. Sweezy is a writer for Popular Mechanic. Wow. I just now saw that for the first time. I didn't realize that the first time that I read it. Other publications of desirous publishing biography of Tesla, and therefore would like to obtain control of his notes for this work. And I think that it's also interesting that Kasanovich was this representation for all of these different countries: Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Greece. And that's who got the papers first. And so, yeah, it seems like Yugoslavia or Czechoslovakia may have gotten Tesla's stuff, or at least some of it. And then the Soviets were in control of that at that time. So basically, some of this may have gone to the Soviets. Especially considering they were trying to charge Kasanovich, right? They suspect him as a double agent, I would imagine. Clark is employed by RCA and would also provide storage room for Tesla's effects in order to use them in writing a biography. Tesla at one time reported to be working on experiments for the Yugoslavian government in exile. It is desired that the Bureau advise immediately whether it is interested further in this property for the purpose of taking control of it. Suggested that in view of the fact that notes and other material would be highly technical in character, for that reason could not be reviewed except by a trained person by the Office of Scientific Research who might be interested. And that was the FBI agent in charge, possibly Foxworth. And here we have FBI January 14th, 1943, a memorandum. Mr. Little of the Bureau called me on January 1943 and advised the above matter was now being handled as an alien enemy custodian matter, and therefore we should take no further action on it. I advised Mr. Little this office had sent out a teletype to the Bureau in this case on January 13th, in which the Bureau advised this office was contemplating no further action. So what the hell? How are they flip-flopping so much? Reference is made, this is January 21st now, FBI, with his director, John Edgar Hoover. Reference is made to the teletype dated January 9th, 1943, excuse me. Pretty sure we've already read that. Conversation between Mr. J and Mr. Little. Charge of Donegan on January 11th. It was pointed out to Mr. Donegan that Sava Kasanovich, George Clark, and Kenneth Sweezy may have committed burglary violation by entering Tesla's room after his death, particularly by using a locksmith to get into safety containers of Tesla's valuable papers. Mr. Donegan was advised this matter would be discreetly discussed with the state's attorney, New York City, with a view to locating Kasanovich and apprehending him on a burglary charge in order to ascertain the nature of the material taken from the safe of Nikola Tesla. It was also suggested that New York office contact surrogate court in order that Tesla's effects, as well as the contents of the safety deposit boxes, might not be entered without the presence of an agent in order to ensure the secrecy of any plans or items essential to conduct of the war national security might be preserved. It was stated that Kasanovich might possibly make certain material available to the enemy. And so here again, it says Kasanovich successfully took the stuff here, or at least some of it. He took something, that's for sure. Because if you remember, the managers and the lockkeeper and Kasanovich himself said that, hey, I only took some photographs of Tesla. Which this seems like it might be a little bit more serious than that.